Venezuela's new chief prosecutor, President Nicolas Maduro's former human rights ombudsman, Tarek Saab, has outlined corruption accusations against his predecessor, Luisa Ortega Diaz, and her husband. The pair and other members of Ortega's former staff of lawyers are accused of running a so-called extortion gang and funneling funds into an offshore bank account in the Bahamas. Ortega said on Twitter that the Venezuelan intelligence service had raided her home as part of the government's revenge for her fight against totalitarianism. Maduro's government, she wrote, is trying to put an end to our struggle for democracy and freedom. The case will be investigated by the country's newly created Truth Commission, a panel many have compared to a kangaroo court, which is also looking into opposition candidates who are believed to have been involved in this year's violent political protests. Many have accused Maduro of trying to sideline the opposition in order to bolster his party's flagging support. Another concern is a bill that would sentence those who express hate or intolerance with up to 25 years in jail, a move the opposition fears will be used to silence critics of Maduro's government.
The United States and Japan have begun a joint military exercise in Hokkaido that's described as the largest ever of its kind. The operation is taking place in the northern Japanese city of Eniwa. Senior commanders say it's aimed at strengthening their alliance and not related to tension on the Korean peninsula.
The Japanese-U.S. alliance is extremely important to stability in the Asia-Pacific region. So the better we are, the better we can communicate with our partners and allies, the better stability will be throughout.
The 18-day exercise called Northern Viper involves some 3,500 troops and includes rocket artillery drills and live-fire operations.
The world trusts Vladimir Putin more than it does Donald Trump. That's according to a poll by the Pew Research Center. Both scored poorly, but Trump's figures point to a high level of public distrust in the US president.
We measured the same rating for Trump in these same countries, and in 22 of 36 nations, actually, you're seeing more people feel confident in Putin than they are in Trump.
Trump scored higher in 13 countries, including Britain. Only Tanzania saw them as equals.
And back in 2015, when we last polled in Russia, Republicans and Democrats roughly saw Putin and Russia on the same level, relatively low in both instances. Today, though, 2 years later, you're seeing Republicans feel quite a bit more confident in Putin and quite a bit more favorable towards Russia.
Europeans reportedly have a relatively low opinion of Putin, although he is said to be popular in Greece.
Giant clouds of grey smoke cloak the horizon in parts of central Portugal as fast-moving wildfires continue to strain emergency services. 3 major blazes that have reignited about 90 miles north of Lisbon have left 76 wounded, 6 seriously, and mobilised more than 1,000 firefighters, 300 vehicles and nearly 20 aircraft or helicopters. The National Civil Protection Authority says the country is experiencing the most severe weather conditions since 2005 in terms of drought, heat and wind intensity. Over 140,000 hectares of woodland have burnt this year, 3 times more than the average over the past decade. With expectations of a further rise in temperature, emergency services have extended the orange alert level, the 4th level of gravity out of 5, at least until Friday in the early evening.
Zimbabwe's First Lady, Grace Mugabe, has applied for diplomatic immunity in South Africa after being accused of assault. She faces charges of attacking 20-year-old model Gabriella Engels after finding her in a hotel room with her 2 sons. A picture posted on social media appears to show a deep cut to her forehead. Engels also claims she has more injuries at the back of her head. Mugabe, who's widely seen as a potential successor to her 93-year-old husband, was in South Africa for treatment to an ankle injury. She's not thought to have left the country, despite reports she'd returned home.
Dutch police have arrested a man who held a woman hostage at knife point for about 90 minutes at a media building in Hilversum, according to local media reports. The incident happened at the Media Park building, where several Dutch media companies have offices and studios. Dutch police have cordoned off a building in the city of Hilversum, where a man with a knife has taken an employee hostage, Dutch broadcaster NPO reports. The situation apparently follows an altercation outside of the building earlier in the morning, which may have involved the same two individuals. The police reportedly found a knife and a bag 50 meters from the building. The station is continuing broadcasting without disruption, according to Reuters. The Hilversum Media Park building hosts several Dutch broadcasters and media companies, including NOS, and serves as the headquarters of the Dutch Public Broadcasting System, NPO. It was also the scene of the 2002 assassination of politician Pim Fortuyn, who was gunned down in the parking lot after being interviewed at 3FM.
Spanish Coast Guards have rescued around 600 migrants in their busiest ever day. The number of migrants arriving in Spain looks set to double this year, to 11,000. Toy paddle boats and a jet ski were amongst the vessels used by the latest arrivals, who counted 35 women and children amongst them. Despite a fall in numbers last month, however, Italy is still the front line of the European migrant crisis, with over 100,000 making the voyage from Libya since the start of the year. Saudi Arabia has said that it will welcome Qatari pilgrims travelling to perform the Hajj in Mecca this year. Qataris have been unable to travel to the kingdom since June, when Saudi Arabia and 3 of its allies accused Doha of supporting terrorism and imposed sanctions. Pilgrims will now be able to enter the country via the Salwa border point, which has been closed since the start of the blockade. The announcement came after Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman received a diplomatic envoy from Doha. It's the first sign of compromise in the long-running standoff. Previously, it was thought that Qatari pilgrims would only be able to enter the country via 2 airports, using Saudi-approved airlines. Doha had complained to the UN that the stance politicised the Hajj, which is a sacred duty for Muslims.
Turkey and Iran are again voicing their opposition to a planned referendum on Iraqi Kurdish independence. Both countries have sizable Kurdish populations of their own and share a concern that an independent Kurdistan could threaten their own territorial integrity.
Irak'ın toprak bütünlüğüne, siyasi birliğine, birlikteliğine önem vermektedir.
Turkey's deputy prime minister told a news conference that the vote violates Iraq's constitution and threatens regional stability. The Turkish foreign minister has warned that independence could lead to civil war in Iraq. Iranian Chief of Staff Major General Mohammad Bakri met with his Turkish counterpart in Ankara to discuss the referendum and other regional issues. The two countries have been waging war with Kurdish separatists for decades. The US has also asked Iraq's Kurds to postpone the vote, saying it distracts from the ongoing fight against the Islamic State. Kurdish authorities in Erbil say the referendum will go ahead on September 25th.
E dali dentro do momento para espaço comercial, agora nós soubemos que nos informe da Deportivo.